Imagine spending 4 weeks convincing an entire country that magic was real, that history was about to repeat itself, that Lionel Messi was going to lift one more World Cup before riding off into the sunset, and then finding out federal agents in the United States had been quietly building a case the whole time. Not a rumor, not a hater's conspiracy theory. An actual FBI investigation into the Argentine Football Association, the very organization behind Messi's national team, over something as serious as fraud and money laundering. And while the world was watching penalty kicks and last-minute goals, there was a completely different story unfolding behind the scenes, one involving over $300 million, American banks, and a federal case that could reshape how people see the biggest football federation in South America. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what happened, why it happened, and what it really means for Messi, for Argentina, and for the sport itself. Before we go further, if you are someone who loves football breakdowns like this, the kind that go past the headlines and actually explain what is going on, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. It genuinely helps this channel, Goal Verdict, keep bringing you these deep dives instead of just recycled highlights. Okay, now let's get into it, because this story has more layers than most people realize. It all started quietly. According to reporting out of Argentina by the newspaper La Nación, the Federal Bureau of Investigation began looking into the Argentine Football Association, known as the AFA, all the way back in 2025. That investigation expanded further in 2026 after an alert came from Argentina's own Ministry of Security. Think about that for a second. This wasn't American authorities randomly deciding to poke around. It was flagged from within Argentina itself, which already tells you this is not some baseless internet rumor. Something inside the organization triggered enough concern that it reached federal law enforcement on 2 continents. So what exactly is the AFA accused of? The FBI has reportedly been investigating how the AFA moved more than $300 million into banks and companies based in the United States. That is not pocket change. That is the kind of number that raises eyebrows in any financial system, let alone one connected to a sports federation. As part of the inquiry, the FBI reportedly questioned AFO President Claudio Tapia about how the organization structured its international commercial agreements. In other words, investigators wanted to know how contracts, sponsorships, and broadcasting deals were being handled, and whether that money trail led somewhere it shouldn't. Here's where it gets even more interesting, and this is the part a lot of casual fans completely missed. Because many of these international sponsorship and media rights payments allegedly moved through a company registered in the United States and passed through the American banking system, federal prosecutors may actually have jurisdiction over transactions that technically took place outside of Argentina. That's a big deal. It means American law can apply even to money that never physically touched Argentine soil, as long as it passed through a U.S. bank at some point. And if that legal framework sounds familiar, it should. It is the same legal approach federal authorities used back in 2015 during the landmark FIFA bribery prosecutions, the case that ended up blowing up FIFA's entire leadership structure and permanently changed how football finances are policed around the world. So when people say this could be serious, they are not exaggerating. This is the exact same playbook that once toppled the most powerful people in the sport. Now, before you assume Messi himself is somehow personally implicated in fraud charges, let's slow down, because that is not what the reporting says. As of right now, this investigation is still in its preliminary stages, and no one has officially been charged with any wrongdoing. That distinction matters. An investigation is not a conviction. It is not even a formal accusation yet. It is federal agents asking questions, pulling records, and trying to determine whether something illegal actually took place. But here's the thing that makes this story so juicy for headlines. The timing could not have been worse for Argentina, because this was all unfolding while Messi was chasing history on the field. While federal investigators were digging into the AFA's finances, Messi and his teammates were fighting through one of the most chaotic World Cup runs in recent memory. Argentina's road to the 2026 final was full of controversy, with constant allegations of officiating decisions and claims of FIFA favoritism following the defending champions through the entire tournament. It wasn't just noise from angry fans online either. Egypt actually filed an official complaint demanding a formal investigation into the refereeing decisions during their controversial round of 16 loss to Argentina. And Egypt wasn't alone. Reports also surfaced of Algeria's Football Federation lodging a complaint with FIFA, centered on a tackle involving Messi that some analysts argued should have resulted in a red card. This is where the story splits into 2 very different narratives, and honestly, both sides make compelling arguments. On one hand, you have frustrated fans and rival nations pointing to a pattern, questionable calls, aggressive tactics that seem to go unpunished, and a federation now under federal investigation for how it handles money. Put those pieces together, and it starts to look like a program that maybe bent a few too many rules to get its golden generation one final trophy before Messi's era closes. On the other hand, you have to remember that Argentina still had to win these matches on the pitch. Referees make mistakes in every single tournament, against every single team, and correlation is not the same as proof. Just because a federation is being investigated for financial irregularities does not automatically mean matches were fixed or that officials were influenced. Those are two completely separate questions, and it is important not to blur them together just because they happened during the same news cycle. Still, the backlash was intense. Some fans even launched what became known as the Argentina Out petition, which reportedly gathered more than 23 million signatures from people across 170 different countries, calling for Argentina to be removed from the tournament entirely. 23 million signatures. Let that number sink in for a moment, because that is not a small group of bitter fans venting online. That is a genuinely massive global reaction, the kind you rarely see directed at a single national team. And through all of that pressure, Argentina kept winning, kept advancing, and eventually walked out for the final, with a chance to do something almost no team in modern history has done, defend a World Cup title in back-to-back tournaments. But football has a way of writing its own endings, and this one did not go the way the story seemed to be building toward. Argentina reached the final, only to suffer a heartbreaking 1-0 defeat in extra time against Spain, falling just short of becoming only the third nation ever to win consecutive World Cups. And the drama didn't stop when the final whistle blew either. The match ended with an ugly post-match altercation between players, an image that instantly became one of the defining moments of the entire tournament, symbolizing just how much tension had built up around this Argentina squad. So think about the full picture here. A federation under federal investigation, a team accused of receiving favorable treatment, a petition with 23 million names on it, and then, after all of that pressure, a loss in the final and a brawl on the pitch. If you were writing a script for maximum drama, you almost couldn't invent a more chaotic ending. Naturally, the political response was just as loud as the football response. Argentina's president, Javier Milei, didn't stay quiet either. He came out defending his national team against what he and many Argentine fans saw as an unfair pile-on, essentially framing the criticism as excessive and unjustified, given everything the players had achieved on the field. And it wasn't just the president speaking up. According to reporting from La Nación, the Argentine Football Association itself began exploring legal action over what they described as a misinformation campaign targeting Messi and other players. Sources close to the federation suggested they were even considering possible defamation lawsuits against people who amplified negative narratives about the team online. So now you have federal investigators on one side digging into real financial questions, and the federation on the other side threatening legal action against critics, all happening at the exact same time. It is a genuinely fascinating tug-of-war between accountability and reputation management. Now here's the part I think deserves real analysis, because headlines love to slap the word fraud onto a story and let people's imaginations run wild. What we actually know right now is this. There is a legitimate federal investigation into how the AFA structured its international financial dealings, and that investigation is serious enough to have involved direct questioning of the federation's president. That is a real story with real consequences, regardless of how the World Cup itself played out. Separately, there were performance-related controversies on the pitch, refereeing complaints from multiple countries, and a wave of public backlash that snowballed into one of the largest fan petitions football has ever seen. Those two threads are related in the public conversation, but they are not proven to be related in fact. A financial investigation into contracts and banking does not automatically confirm that matches were manipulated. And allegations of refereeing bias, no matter how loud the fan reaction gets, are not the same as legal evidence of fraud. What makes this such a compelling story isn't that everything is confirmed, it's that so much is still unresolved. An ongoing federal case with no charges yet filed, a federation threatening lawsuits against its critics, a fan base of millions convinced something was off, versus a team that ultimately lost the final anyway, which honestly complicates the entire favoritism narrative. Because if the system was truly rigged in Argentina's favor, why did they lose the biggest match of the tournament? That question right there is really the heart of this whole controversy, and it's one worth sitting with. Was this a case of a proud football nation being unfairly targeted by jealous rivals and opportunistic headlines? Or was there something legitimately concerning happening behind the scenes that just hasn't fully come to light yet? The honest answer, based on everything reported so far, is that we genuinely don't know, not for certain. What we do know is that this investigation is not going away quietly, and as it develops, it has the potential to affect everything from AFA leadership to future sponsorship deals to how international football federations get scrutinized going forward. This might end up being remembered as a footnote in Messi's incredible career, or it could turn into something far bigger for the sport as a whole. Either way, it is a story that deserves to be followed closely, not through hot takes and clickbait, but through actual verified reporting. If this kind of breakdown is what you come here for, the full story behind the headlines instead of just surface level noise, make sure you're subscribed to Goal Verdict so you don't miss the next update on this investigation as it unfolds, because this is far from over. And if you have thoughts on whether Argentina was unfairly targeted or whether there's genuinely something to this fraud investigation, drop your take in the comments. Share this video with someone who's been following the story, and I will see you in the next one.